Good afternoon. I'm Gwen Gamble, and I'm here with Sunriver U to welcome you to the 2023 Sunriver Homeowners Association Board Candidates Forum. I must say, I'm sorry we're running late, and we're going to add the extra time on at the end. So we'll be ending at 5:36 instead of 5:30. This is important because we want to answer as many questions as possible. And if you have questions during this presentation, please type them in the chat and I will ask the questions as they come in. And at 5:36, we're done. So it's important that we give you that extra time. Let's see. Please set your view to speaker view, and that way you can get the full picture of who is speaking. And once again, type your questions into the chat feature. Okay, we're going to start today with each of the four candidates introducing themselves and telling why they're running for the SROA board. So we're going to, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. So Bill Burke, you're first.
Thank you, Gwen, and thanks to Sunriver U for providing this opportunity to speak to our homeowners. I'm running for re-election on the board. I've been serving the past 2 3/4 years. Our history of Sunriver is beginning visiting here in '81, primarily to ski, building our first home in '92, and building our second home in 2004 with the plan to end up being here permanently, and the plan worked. I think our history of being both a non-resident owner as well as a full-time resident lends itself well to serving on your board. My educational background includes undergraduate and graduate degrees from Humboldt State University. Professionally, I was the chief probation officer in 2 California counties, Humboldt, before being recruited to go to Marin County. And I retired in 2009 with 34 plus years in the discipline. I have executive level experience administering budgets and services for organizations of comparable size or greater size. I'm oriented towards strategic planning and data-driven outcomes with definable metrics, best practices, collaboration with stakeholders, and protection of organizational assets as personal interest and experience. While I've been on your board, I've had the opportunity to work with other board members in a highly experienced and talented management team. I've served as assistant secretary, currently vice president. I've been on the admissions model work group, liaison to owners enrichment committee, and several task forces, including Parks and Rec facilities task force and the comprehensive owners survey. I've also participated in several of these town halls. Part of why I'm running is to, well, first of all, I'm proud to have been.
Bill, that's 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Those other issues will come up in turn. All right.
I bet they do.
You have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Scott Gillies. I'll be a little shorter than Bill. We joined the board at the same time. So I've been on it just about 3 years as well. Currently acting as secretary, been on quite a few task force and committees during that period. I've been a resident homeowner for over 5 years. I very much enjoy the community, and I enjoy being on the board and helping with planning and implementation of improvements that we can make to our community, and hopefully being a voice for the majority of our homeowners is what I'm trying to do anyway. My background is a design career. I've been on a couple advisory boards on 2 different universities, and I guess that's about it. That's all I have to say anyway. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Next, we'll hear from Clark Peterson.
Hey, my name is Clark Peterson, and I'm also running for re-election at the same time that Scott and Bill was elected just short of 3 years ago. And my wife and I bought our first home here in 2008. And it was a shared home with my brother and sister-in-law that we rented out. And then we bought our second home here in 2016 as a pre-retirement. So we were an owner, but we did not rent that home out. So that's another chunk of our owners. And now we moved up here when I retired 3.5 years ago. So we've kind of filled all three roles of the categories of owners in Sunriver. My background was a financial investment advisor for 37 years, which I enjoyed immensely. And I have served on a number of other boards. But of course, I think the best experience is having served the past 2.5 years, 3/4 years on the Sunriver board. But I've also been on a community hospital board and some smaller boards. On the hospital foundation board for over 20 years and full board for chair of this foundation board for I think the main thing is listening to owners and being available. The biggest thing is being a board member is a time commitment. I made it a point to donate the time. So it's a matter of not only being there at the meetings, but going to some of the owner forums, serving on task forces. I've been chair of the finance committee and board treasurer this past year. There's a lot of things that we've been involved in that I would like to continue in, and that's my main reason for running for re-election. I'm on the TRT task force, which is the transfer tax, looking at long-term financial stability for our owners association. I'm also on
That's your 2 minutes.
Thank you.
I feel so sorry to cut
That's
everybody,
okay.
but we got to keep the ball rolling here. So, and then I'd like to welcome Bob Tiernan. He's running for the board this year, and welcome. You get your 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Bob Tiernan. I first started coming to Sunriver in 1975 as a sophomore at Oregon State. We would stay in Sunriver and we'd go to the top of Mount Bachelor where everybody else would ski, and I would just sit on top and look how gorgeous it was. I thoroughly enjoyed Sunriver then. I think for every Christmas since 1977, we've been coming there. We're part-time owners, not full-time, but I do spend a lot of time there. Why am I running? To make a difference, to keep Sunriver, the Sunriver that we all know, the Sunriver that we all grew up with. It's such a unique place. I believe my background in business, I've been a very successful businessman. Probably one of my better ones was president of Grocery Outlet. I grew the company to a large grocery store chain. I still do some work for them. I've spent 28 years in the United States Navy as an intelligence officer, came out as commander, was in several leadership roles in every major confrontation we had from 1983 to 2013. Also a lawyer, graduated from Georgetown University, still practicing law, still member of the Oregon State Bar. I have my own individual consulting business, Tiernan and Associates, where I have about 20 clients. Most importantly, I have 3 kids that are now all grown adults who grew up in Sunriver. Every single Christmas and every special event. And now I have 8 grandchildren, and now we're bringing them to Sunriver. It's such a unique place. I think my background and experience in politics, I was in the legislature. I understand the committee process. I understand what's important. I understand how to make decisions. I've learned that in the Navy and my business, and that's what I do. I look forward to representing Sunriver, every single person out there, to keep this the unique place it is.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Now, we're going to start the question rounds. And the way this works for all of our viewers is we rotate who goes first, but everyone gets a turn to answer the question. The questions will be read by me. If any candidate needs me to repeat it, please ask before your time starts. And you will get 1 minute to answer each question. So when you're first, when you're first, it's hardest.
I want everybody to remember that.
So Bill, we're starting with you. We're going to keep the same sequence: Bill, Scott, Clark, Bob, and then the next round, Scott will be first. Okay, so Bill Burke, to all the candidates, is there something in Sunriver you would consider a high priority for change?
For a change?
Yep.
I was thinking mostly in terms of sustaining. Probably the thing that I would like to change and improve is pathway and roadway safety. As we've become more congested as we have different modes of transportation. It's pretty crazy out there on the pathways, getting people to cooperate, class 2, class 3, e-bikes, other motorized scooters, motorized hoverboards. I would really like to see us focus in the upcoming years on improving the safety of everyone, for everyone. And on that, I would include our roadways as well. We consistently see this morning while biking, I saw 2 people biking in the wrong direction on a circle. I mean, it's getting pretty crazy. Few people actually call out on your left when they're passing each other. And I've heard other homeowners remark on the issue of increasing concerns around pathway and road safety.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Scott, is there something in Sunriver you would consider high priority for positive change?
I agree with Bill. I don't know that there's anything I would change too much, but improvements, I think there are definitely improvements that can be made, excuse me. And I believe that the pathways, as Bill said, is a high priority. We do have a number of issues going with the pathways, and we need to figure out how we're going to handle that. But one of my major improvements also is to improve the recreational amenities. I believe that we had a task force, well, we did have a task force, I was on it, about looking at the future of our recreation and parks in Sunriver. And I think that improving or increasing our amenities for recreation are a change that I would like to see happen.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Clark.
I think too, it's more of a continuing to change rather than something new. One of the areas I think is funding, stabilizing our finances, and we're in very great shape financially the last couple of years with Sunriver, following COVID. But we are working on a task force that are trying to secure a portion of the transfer room tax that we paid to Deschutes County, getting it dedicated to Sunriver, which would help us with the improvements we all would like to make as owners. The other thing is the parks that Scott mentioned. We just completed this wonderful parks master plan, and we need to look at what portions can we implement first and where the priorities are. So there's continued work that needs to be done there. In fact, we've started a dogs park committee or task force, and Scott and I are both currently on that to look at making a recommendation for vacation.
Okay, Clark, that's your minute. And Bob, do you need the question repeated?
Sure.
One of Sunriver's strengths as a community is the spirit. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong question. Back up. Back up on the next one. I'll shuffle the deck. Is there something in Sunriver you would consider a high priority for positive change?
Well, first off, I think throughout the years, and I mean, going back to 1975, I was amazed at what such a unique place and how well Sunriver was run back then. And as it's grown, we've had more problems, more challenges, and dealing with growth is always a challenge because we can't stop growth, but we got to be careful how we grow. I think public safety is something that's always going to be foremost. Affordability. I think we have to always think about affordable because we have all sorts of folks who live in Sunriver. Some are homeowners and some of them are on fixed income. Some of them are renting their places out. We have Sunriver Lodge, which is a partner out there, and we may or may not think of it that way. I do because they own a lot of the big amenities that draw people into Sunriver. I think we just have to be careful. We have to be careful not to lose the mystique of Sunriver, the things that we all come there for, whether it's the river, the mountains, the views, the biking.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
That minute goes quickly. Welcome to the Sunriver Candidates Forum. All right.
I got a gong show.
Yeah. Scott, you get to start this next round. Okay. What is your vision for Sunriver?
Wow. That's kind of a difficult question. I think I don't personally have a vision for Sunriver itself other than keeping it as is, and as Bob mentioned, keeping the mystique of Sunriver, I think is very important, and looking at that. So I think as a long-term vision, we need to look at the growth of Sunriver and what's going to be happening to the population here, whether we're going to have more long-term residents, or whether we're going to have more families, or whether we're going to have more retirees. How's it going to happen? Where's the growth going to come from? And looking at a vision related to that, related to what kind of population are we going to end up having here in the next 10, 15 years? Things are changing, and we see it in building homes. There's a lot of remodeling going on, a lot of building of bigger homes. So I think this is going to change the look of Sunriver. Sorry.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Clark, what is your vision for Sunriver?
I guess I would say my vision is to continue to protect the essence of what Sunriver is. I mean, change is bound to happen in various different ways, but the ability to kind of commune with nature and share with nature and have opportunities to for recreation and for peaceful times as well as active times. Sunriver has so much to offer, and sometimes it's a matter too of balancing the competing interests. And I think that's what we need to continue to work for, and to look for new things that we can add. And I think the Parks Master Plan has suggested a number of new things that are that I think our owners would support if we can find a way to finance them and do it in a strong way without increasing significant increases in dues.
Okay, thank you, Clark. And Bob Tiernan, what is your vision for Sunriver?
Well, I've kind of outlined it, what attracted me to run for the board and why I've been coming here since 1975. It's the mystique. It's everything. It's so many things. Your 1 minute couldn't quite grab it. But I would say the core of it is keeping it livable, keeping the safety as our state challenges, or is seeking challenges with its public safety, and having some communities that are getting out of control. We can't allow that to happen, and we have the ability to help make that not happen. So I think protecting Sunriver, safety, public safety, livability, affordability, and I'll put an emphasis on affordability again, because I think we got to always keep in mind, especially when I served on the various budget committees I did in business and government, some people are challenged, and we got to keep in mind, we all don't, sit on a pot of gold. So we got to be careful how we spend our money.
Thank you very much. And look, you had overtime, seconds to spare, Bob. You're going to.
I give them back to you.
Okay. You don't get them later, though. All right. Bill, what is your vision for Sunriver?
Well, I think it starts with our mission statement, with our emphasis on our natural environment, with maintaining ourselves as a premier residential and resort community, and maintaining the property values for all of our owners. Related to this is an initiative that we will be starting in the later part of this year with a strategic planning 2030 goal to look at an operational plan rather than a vision, as it were. I think connected to this, it will be important to incorporate other initiatives we already have, such as the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan, Infrastructure and Amenities Master Plan, as well as our Pathway Master Plan. As all of these things come together in a strategic envisioning and operationalizing, I think that that will allow us to really see where we are and where we want to be. More Sunriver, probably less Disneyland.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we switch around, new question, and we'll be starting with Clark. Okay, so here's the new question. One of Sunriver's strengths as a community is the spirit of collaboration. In what collaborative Sunriver projects have you participated?
I've participated in a number of them. I think it's important as board members that we do that. I was involved in the recycling committee where we had a lot of input, from owners with differing points of view. And I think there was lots of opportunities with community forums, Sunriver U presentations for owners to voice their opinions, to the people that are on the board and decisions on behalf of all of us. I try to go to a number of the owner forums that owners have a chance to talk to us and express their concerns. And of course, the board is always open to be hearing from owners at all our meetings, because I think it's important that some of that information come from the ground up, not just from the board down. We do need to be working collaboratively with neighbors and friends and fellow owners.
Okay, thank you, Clark. Bob?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. One of Sunriver's strengths as a community is the spirit of collaboration. In what collaborative Sunriver projects have you participated?
I haven't participated directly in any projects in Sunriver, with the exception of my service on the homeowners board of the Sunriver Lodge. And with Tom O'Shea, who is the general manager there, I helped shape a lot of things around the lodge, the pool, the new aqua feature that we have, and how it's laid out, and how careful he is to keep the mystique and the shape and the size and the draw of Sunriver. My community service has spent 28 years in the Navy, being a leader as a commander in the Navy and serving my country. I served my state with 4 years in the Oregon legislature, where I was chairman of several of the biggest committees, helping the entire state to get to a better point. So I have worked collaboratively in just about everything I did, including when you're running large companies. You don't do everything. You're just the leader of the band, and you have to have a lot of skilled people around you who play instruments very well. So I know about collaboration. I know about leadership. I know how to get things done.
And your time's up.
Right on time.
Yeah, and you're done. All right. Bill Burke. Spirit of collaboration, what collaborative Sunriver projects have you participated with?
Prior to serving on the board from 2018 to 2020, I was selected to be on the Infrastructure and Amenities Master Plan Task Force. It's also called IAMP. In 2019, 2020, again, prior to serving on the board, I was part of the general manager task force or search committee that hired our current general manager. Prior to being on the board, I also sat in regularly as a listener on board work sessions and board meetings to get to further my understanding of operations. While on your board, I've served as I mentioned before, as assistant secretary, current vice president, the admissions model work group, liaison to the owner enrichment committee, Parks and Recreation Facilities Task Force, the Comprehensive Owners Survey Task Force, and other town halls.
Okay. Wow, I'm impressed you got that all in there so fast.
I tried.
Okay.
Practicing.
Scott. Oh, questions were not sent out ahead of time. That's the advantage of not being first. So Scott, what collaborative projects in Sunriver have you participated in?
Prior to being on the board, I was one of the founding members that started Sunriver U and continued to be with that to create educational opportunities for people in our community. Obviously, I've been on the board, so that's collaborative. I've been on the Parks and Rec Task Force that determined the new plan for what we're going to do. I also am a liaison to the design committee. I was on the task force for the design committee manual update. And I've been on various other smaller committees within the board and outside the board as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. And oh, that's everybody. You've all had a turn with that question. Mm-hmm. Okay, Bob, you get to be first this time.
Oh boy.
I'll read slowly, give you a chance.
Thank you.
Sunriver needs volunteers. They help get stuff done. It's a good way to meet neighbors. How can we encourage or grow volunteering in Sunriver?
Oh, that's a great question. And I've worked with a tremendous amount of volunteers in the political side, in my business side. It's how you get a lot of things done. The key to volunteers is making it fun. If you could make it fun, the different projects you have, by the people who you're leading, by small rewards, big rewards, but the best reward is a thank you. But you make it fun, you make it interesting, you make it entertaining, you make them feel needed, and you thank them for their service, you will get a lot of volunteers. And that's what I've done in my, I did that in the Navy when I was in charge of a task force, as crazy it may sound, and we're not even in the United States, and I'm leading a task force to get something done. I made it fun. And we show up early, we had a camaraderie, and it is a magic word, but if you can do it, you will get a lot of volunteers.
Great. Thank you so much. Bill Burke.
Yeah, I think there's several. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate, we're encouraging volunteering and your minute starts.
Okay, I think there's a basis of increasing volunteerism is to focus on our two-way interaction and our transparency as a board. We have several methods for that. The Scene, our monthly publication. We have increased community e-notices or updates or blasts, whatever you want to call them. Town halls such as this can increase interest in those areas. I'd really like to see us continue to support the nominating committee's efforts to recruit. They've had some good ideas and have kind of reworked their approach during the past year. And this year, in an effort to communicate more with our owners, as vice president, we've extended our owners forum to include individual board members responding back as appropriate to owners that are participating there. We've had very good responses to our responses to the owners.
Minute goes fast. Sorry. All right, Scott, how can we encourage and grow volunteering in Sunriver?
I kind of agree with Bob in a little bit. We need to make some of the volunteering more enjoyable for the people that are volunteering, and also make sure that they know that, you know, they're welcome and we value their input. I think sometimes people just think everything is decided for them. And I think we need to make sure that you need to be a part of those decisions, and also just increase the awareness of things that are happening. We have a lot of things happening in Sunriver, a lot of committees, a lot of task force, and somehow increase the awareness of our community as to what is happening and beyond those. I also think that on those task force and committees, we need to make sure that everyone knows, not just the residents that are here, but non-resident owners, because they can be on them as well. Most of our meetings and task force are all done via Zoom, so anyone can from any place can be on those. Sorry, did I do something? Anyway, that's it.
Well, and that's your minute. Right, Clark, how can we encourage and grow volunteering in Sunriver?
You know, we have a tremendous resource among our owners. There's so much talent and variety of owners out there, and most of them have been very free with volunteering their time. You know, we had some people on the Parks Task Force that were in park development. Our IT task force had some very high-end people that had a business background in IT that you couldn't have possibly found in a lot of other areas. So I think we always need to have some tasks that are time short, where owners can say, hey, I can work on something for a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months, but I don't want to commit to being, you know, a board member every month for 3 years. And you do try to make it fun and try to make productive use of their time, start the meetings on time, make sure you're getting input from everyone on the task force. And there's just so much talent out there. We need to work with the Scene and the email blasts.
Okay,
you know, actually our staff does a great job
very much. All right, next question. Start with Bill Burke. What are your thoughts on closing Public Works Recycling Center. Just the recycling center, not Public Works.
Yeah, as with Clark, I was on the task force regarding recycling facility. I think over the next, by year's end, we will be able to have a full year of understanding seasonal cycles for what the use of the recycling facility is, what the need for it is or is not. I'm happy that we now have side yard recycling. At the same time, not everyone is pleased with that. Rules kind of changed once the vote failed here to reach the 60% threshold. And so what had been previously discussed as an optional side yard recycling as opposed to using the facility changed to what is called universal, but what reads to the homeowners, many homeowners at least, as mandatory.
Hey, Bill, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off.
Okay.
Clearly, some of you have a lot of information on recycling. Okay, Scott, what are your thoughts on closing the recycling center? The one here, the Public Works one.
Right. My thoughts are, I agree with Bill in a sense that we've just basically started side yard recycling this year. I think we need to evaluate what that does to the effect of this recycling center. If there's still a major use of it and a need for it after a year going through all the seasons and all the events, et cetera, to see whether it's worth it to keep it or not. So I haven't made a decision yet on that. I think if we don't need it, I think it would be a good idea that we don't have it, in personal opinion. But if we do need it, then I think we should keep it. And there may be some options to do part of it, like maybe just keep the cardboard recycling, but not the other recycling. So I think we have to look at everything for a year and just see what happens now that we have side yard recycling before we come to any decisions at this point.
Okay, thank you. Clark?
I was on the recycling task force and spent many hours along with Bill Burke on looking at the options. And side yard recycling, as you may recall, started in January. The board made the commitment that we'd keep the recycling open through the summer and start to get a handle on how much usage is still being used. Because side yard recycling, although available to every owner, you have to be subscribed to garbage pickup. And not only subscribe to garbage pickup, but to decide to use the side yard recycling for your recyclables. And unfortunately, the one can you're allowed for recycling may not be big enough to handle all the recycling needs you have, and particularly in the cardboard area. So I think the board will be looking at it before year end and looking at the usage. But there are also owners that don't use the garbage because they might have just a small amount of garbage and take it home, but you might be ordering a lot of things from Amazon and online and have a lot of cardboard boxes if you're buying TVs and furniture. That I think might be a need. And so we're going to be looking at that and asking owners what they feel.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, what is your thought on closing the Public Works recycling?
I know absolutely nothing about closing the recycling center. But let me tell you how I would approach it. Because oftentimes when you jump into things that you know very little about, you have a process you have to go through. And using my legal background and my leadership background in the military, we gather the facts. We get sent away in the middle of nowhere. We have a mission. We gather the facts. We look at those facts. We analyze those facts. We put some analysis to it, and we come to a conclusion. But on top of all that, I would also add that we have to look at the cost. What's the cost benefit of the recycling center? Is it being successful? What are the benchmarks for success? Have we given it an opportunity? And as a community and as a Sunriver board, we can't be afraid to go look at other programs that maybe need to be looked at again and see if they're fulfilling their mission statement, whether they're cost effective and whether they are really worth continuing. This is something I've done a lot in business. I've done a lot of it in the military.
Okay.
I'll do a lot of it here.
Thank you. All right. We're going to start with Scott this round with a new question. oh gosh, this comes up all the time. What can be done about there not being a place for non-homeowners or non-lodge guests to take out a kayak between Harper's Bridge and Benham Falls Takeout?
Well, that is, as you said, that is a tough question. We're very concerned, obviously, about the erosion of the shore of the river. And so having takeout in between those two places, at least on the Sunriver side, is a difficult option. It would mean finding a place that we could basically build something in a sense that would be non-destructive, and that's very difficult to find that place. You can take out on the National Forest side, of course, and people do take out on the Sunriver side. We just don't have parking availability. We don't have a space that is non-erosive to be able to take it out. So I don't know what the answer is to that question, to be honest. I think it's a very difficult question, and I don't know that there is an answer to it without a long-term study.
Thank you, Scott. Clark, do you have any ideas about what can be done about a place for non-homeowners, non-lodge guests to take out a kayak between Harper's Bridge and Benham Falls?
Well, there are some places, it's kind of a false question. They can take out at the marina for the lodge, and they can take out at the Sunriver boat ramp. They just have to pay a fee. So for a small cost, they can go in at Harper Bridge and take out at either one of those and pay the fee. If you're not a homeowner, or if you're using one of the rental homes that has our RPP passes, they can use the Sunriver takeout at no charge. Other than that, there is those issues about erosion. And a year ago, we worked with the county and made it clear too of how to get to and use the Forest Service on the other side of the river, right about at our bridge crossing. Get out that way, but there's not a lot of space there to arrange for other access to get out, because you're approaching private property of all the homeowners associations just right after you get out of the river. So it's a difficult problem. We've been working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
It is a difficult problem, and we are working on it. So, Bob, have any ideas about the takeout for kayaks between Harper's Bridge and Benham Falls for non-homeowners and non-lodge guests?
Well, my understanding was that anybody could take out down at the Sunriver Marina, as the previous speaker said. They just had to pay for it. So there is access out. It's just, it's a cost. And there was a cost for building that marina, a tremendous cost, and not to mention the recent dredging that's gone on. So to have people pull out on people's property, this time, Sunriver's property, I think they do have access to it. To grow that access, I'd be very careful. I mean, the biggest, most unique thing about Sunriver, besides the beauty, is the river that runs through it, that it shoots. And I think we have an obligation to do everything we can to protect that river for everybody. So I would be very careful to open anything else up, and be very careful. Sometimes I have this saying, go slowly as fast as you can. I think it's something we got to go slow if we're going to do something, because there's a lot of unintended consequences that we might run into.
All right. Thank you very much. And Bill.
Yeah, in addition to what's already been offered, there are access points, but it does cost. There's also, what hasn't been stated yet, is there are a lot of land use issues, various intergovernmental agencies and rules and regulations that need to be attended to. And it's rather complicated to get through all of that. I think that's already been experienced with both the Resorts Marina as well as the Sunriver Owners Marina. I also would be concerned, I think maybe this is what Bob was alluding to, is we don't want to make Sunriver amenities an attractive nuisance. If people want to take advantage of what we have here, there are ways to do it. It will cost you. But if we just begin inviting people into our parking lots, filling up everything, creating all of these additional places, it's going to cost the homeowners here, and it may very well make it a less positive experience for all.
Okay, thank you. We're going on to our next question, and Clark, you'll be first. The SROA mission statement. So I'm going to read the mission statement, but that's what this question refers to. The mission statement is maintaining Sunriver as a premier residential and resort community, protecting and enhancing its quality of life, natural environment, and property values. Quality of life, natural environment, property values. How do we balance all three? Clark?
Well, there's always trade-offs. I think a priority among those needs to be keeping Sunriver as such an environmentally wonderful experience to be with nature. And whether it be walking on the bike paths or biking on the bike paths, enjoying the river, listening to the songbirds, we need to keep it from becoming an urban development that we find in our cities. This is a place to enjoy nature. And as we do that, we try to keep it as a premier resort so that 40% of our owners rent their homes. So we do a lot of advertising and promotion and trying to offer activities that renters will like as well. And because of the renters, even as permanent residents, we have access to more restaurants and shopping than we'd have if we were just a community of 4,200 homes. So we just work together to try to promote all those aspects and not ignore any of them.
Okay, thank you, Clark. Bob?
Well, I think the key is in the beginning of that mission statement to maintain a premier community. I think we all have perhaps a different view of what a premier community is and what outranks something else. But ultimately, it's a balancing test. You'll always have give and takes. You'll have, more than 3, maybe more than 4, maybe as much as 8 premier considerations that you got to balance. And it's difficult to do. That's why we have a board. But I think most important is those words: premier, one of a kind. That's what it is to me. Founded in nature, and beauty and safety and all of those other one-liners that we've all been talking about. It's difficult, but that's what the board does. And I think my experience will help us navigate through those difficult questions.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And Bill?
Yeah, I think that mission statement, to me, it's more than aspirational. I think it's largely operationalized. Over time, we've continued to move forward while keeping the unique nature of Sunriver. I don't see any of those goals within the mission statement for the concern for the natural environment, premier community, and property values. I don't see them at odds with each other. There does need to be a balance, and I think we've been able to achieve that in large part through owner involvement and owner engagement.
Okay, and Scott?
I tend to believe a little bit the same as Bill, that these are not separate from each other. I think our main mission statement, part of it is keeping a natural environment. That's what this whole community was built on. So by keeping that in the forefront and being totally aware of keeping a very natural environment, I think also increases your home values and also keeps us as a premier community. So we don't have some of the other problems that the other communities don't pay attention to of the natural environment. So I think both of those are subsets of keeping a natural environment and keeping that what we all love about living here.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Do my little card rotation here. You ready for this next one? Emergency preparedness. Bob, you'll be first on this one, just so you know. Emergency preparedness is on everyone's mind. As individuals, we have our go bags packed. Do you think Sunriver is sufficiently prepared as a community? If not, what would you have SROA do?
Well, I would start off by saying ultimately we are all individually responsible for ourselves to make sure that we have a plan in case something happens. Now, I assume that's wildfire. It could be other things. It wouldn't be the first time something else happened and we have a one-off. But I think our job is to keep all of the avenues of escape open, accessible. I think it has to lie upon the individual to take care of themselves. We can help provide suggestions. We can have things printed in the newspaper. We can help with the communication side. We can help people with ideas on how to be ready, but ultimately it falls back on the individual.
Okay, thank you very much. Bill.
Yeah, first of all, I think we need to accept that climate change is a real thing and we live in a forest. We've had extended drought and more severe weather experience. As you can tell, my primary concern goes to wildfire. I think we have a responsibility for ourselves to have the ready to go bags and all of that sort of stuff. But we also, and as a board member, I think we have a responsibility to each other. And I think every owner has that responsibility to their next door neighbor. So our ladder fuel reduction plan can help remove a lot of the concerns or to mitigate a lot of the concerns around the wildland urban interface and through reducing fire hazards around your home, but also what we're doing as an organization on our common property. I think that if you think back to the 1980s, if you were here at that time, you would see how much improved the landscape and how much more natural it is than then.
Stop you, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Scott, what more could SROA do for emergency preparedness in our community?
Yeah, I agree with Bill that our ladder fuels reduction plan is something that we majorly do as SROA to help protect the community by making sure it's as best as we can immune to fire. It never will be totally immune to fire, of course. And then on the other side of it, I do believe that the preparedness for yourself is your responsibility. We can provide a number of articles in the paper, we can provide handouts, we can provide a number of things that will help you learn what you need to do, but ultimately it is the responsibility of the person themselves to be prepared for it. We are preparing the community for it in the common areas, but we can't prepare each individually. We can't tell them what they have to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Clark?
It's a constant problem because we have turnover of owners. Whatever education we're doing, we got to repeat it year after year after year in order to educate the new owners. In 2022, almost 30% of our homes changed hands. And so whatever we did 3 years ago is not enough. We got to continue to inform people and encourage them to take care of their own property. And then we take care of as a board and an association, common lands. And we're spending $350,000 a year reducing ladder fuels. And that's not mentioning all the money the owners are spending taking down diseased and dying trees and cutting underbrush and repairing their home. And we need to encourage our neighbors to remove the dried beetles off their roofs. If my neighbor's house catches on fire, mine is much more likely, even if I've done all the right things to try to protect my area in reducing ladder fuels. So it's a constant process we all need to pay attention to, both privately and as a community.
Thank you, Clark. All right, I just want to remind all of our listeners that if you have any questions you would like to have answered that might help you make a decision on who you vote for the board, please type your question in the chat and send it to us. And we're happy to put those questions to our candidates. When it comes time to vote, you have the difficult decision of choosing 3 people. And clearly we have 4 running. So, you might just be thinking, well, if I only knew this, it would be a deciding factor. So go ahead and submit those questions. All right, next round, we will be starting with Bill Burke. It's a little similar to a first question, or an earlier question, but how can we increase involvement, not just volunteering, but involvement of the 80% of our homeowners who are not full-time residents?
Well, as some of this will be reiterating with what both I and the other candidates have already shared. We have our methods of outreach. We have something that pre-COVID we never had, accessibility to our board meetings. As Scott was saying earlier, virtually everything is recorded and you can either watch live or catch later. Our increased response to owners at Owners Forum can bring people into the fold and encourage that engagement. Earlier, I mentioned also kind of a revamping of how the nominating committee works. I think that engagement is not just within SROA, but with very many clubs and organizations that exist within Sunriver. There's so many ways to get engaged. In fact, I think our community is probably more engaged than any other. Okay.
All right, Scott, how can we get the 80% more of our homeowners involved?
You mean 80% of the non-resident, right? Is that what you're saying?
Non-residential homeowners. Yeah.
Right, which I had mentioned earlier before, and Bill reiterated in his comments too. Almost everything we do nowadays is the meetings are on Zoom, so it's a lot easier for people that don't live here to become involved if they want to, because they can from a distance and be a part of those decisions and communication. I think we need to make that more aware, make people more aware of that opportunity, whether it's in the scene or emails or email blasts or whatever, letting people know that we want their input and we want them to be involved. Even though they may not live here, they do have the opportunity to give some advice. And it is important because, as you said, 80% of our people do not live here. So we need their input. We need to know what types of things they would want to see in Sunriver because they represent a large portion of our homeowners. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Clark, I'm just going to read that question one more time.
Sure.
So how can we increase involvement of the 80% of homeowners who are not full-time residents?
Well, we have great involvement of our homeowners, and we often have involvement of that 80%. They offer their time and talents. We just need to continue to encourage them and help them realize that you don't have to live here full time. Tribute that, as everyone mentioned, any of the big meetings and task force are usually, we're all connected to Zoom, so you don't have to be here. And help, they need to just say, hey, here's an area I'm interested in. What can I do to help? And to read the scene, read the email, sign up for the email blasts, and keep informed of what's going on, and then step forward when you see an opportunity that you have some interest.
That's a good reminder to sign up for email blasts. I forget those are there myself. All right, Bob.
I'll go back to what I stated originally, which is you have to make it fun for people to get involved. And by fun, make it interesting, make it fulfilling, make them feel like they spent their time well. What the board can do and the committees can do is they need to be short, concise, to the point meetings. Sometimes watching some of the meetings could be watching paint dry, and people value their time. So I think having Sunriver and their various committees and the board really focus on keeping their meetings short, concise, to the point, because they lose audiences. People black out. If we had a little meter over here saying how many people are checking out, I bet you it's pretty high. So it's tough to do, easy to say, tough to do, but I think that's something we need to do. In corporate America, I call it, they have death by meeting. Meetings have to be fun and interesting for people to watch them. Short.
I was just going to cut you off. I was thinking he's going to end this before a minute because he's cutting it short.
I'll give you a little cane.
He stretched it right to that minute mark. All right. We just got one more question in, hot off the press. All right. This will go to Scott first. Sunriver strives to be green and environmental friendly. Is there a way to, and what are your thoughts on making Sunriver more power solar friendly? Our electricity is supplied by a company that is an outlier in not supporting solar rebates and not working with solar installers. Shouldn't we look into switching electricity providers? There's a lot in that question. I might need that.
Yeah, there is. I think that we always should look at anything that is more beneficial to renewable energy, whatever that may be. I think that question involves a lot of research and study if we were to think about changing any kind of our suppliers. I do know that there are people in Sunriver who are starting to add solar power to their roofs. So we do have that capability individually. But changing electricity suppliers or power suppliers in one way or another would require a lot of study. So I'm afraid I can't really answer that question specifically without looking into a study about it to see what would be the benefits and effects of doing so.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Clark, what are your thoughts about making Sunriver more solar power friendly?
First of all, like Scott says, we are seeing solar power on some of our roofs. You know, our design committee rules don't prohibit any solar development, you know, on your roofs. And in the new manual, they even put in language about charging stations and how that can fit into the design of keeping, you know, Sunriver beautiful and attractive. I believe in Oregon, your electricity in your company is based on territory. We don't exactly have a right just to pick, like in some states, who you want your power to come from. And I guess if you're concerned about that, what I'd recommend is, you know, there's openings every year on the Mid-State Electric Board of Directors. I would encourage that owner to look into running for election and representing our community and having an impact. And there always is a cost with that. We should be looking at it. Maybe SROA should be looking at solar on some of our roofs.
Okay, thank you, Clark. Bob?
As it was said, individually, we can put solar. We can put the solar on our roofs right now if the individual homeowner wants to. I think as a technology, we're a ways away from where solar is going to make sense or would make sense in Sunriver. I think the efficiency, the cost, and the reliability, it would be difficult to justify in Sunriver with the climate and the challenges they have and the temperatures and the temperature ranges that we have. But as solar progresses and as solar gets better and as technology improves, certainly it's something we can look forward to. But I haven't seen a study yet, and I've seen quite a few. We had our distribution centers. We're going to put solar on top of them. Didn't make sense. We had 170 stores. Didn't make sense. And they're major users of electricity. So I think we got to be careful. You got to go slowly as fast as you can, but I don't think we're there yet on solar or on our wind farms. And I wouldn't hate to see a wind farm or anything like it around Sunriver.
Bob and Bill?
Well, wind farms haven't been discussed at board meetings yet. So everybody acknowledges that solar is allowed on homes. It's contained within the design manual. I believe that we have solar on Shark. There's discussion regarding installation of the charging machines for autos. I do have a question regarding what is considered an outlier, because I haven't seen companies of comparison to figure out who is or isn't an outlier. And as Clark said, anybody can go ahead and run for the Mid-State co-op and seek change there, or even attend meetings and share those concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just checking here to see if we have another question coming in. Looks like we might. Yeah. So while we're, oh, here we go. This is an owner wants to clarify that the question's misunderstood. All owners can add solar. The point is that the provider makes it too expensive. Oh, yeah, the provider mid-state makes adding solar too expensive. I don't know that we have anything we can do about that. Is there any board candidate that wants to address the expense of adding solar? I'll just leave that as an open forum kind of thing if anybody has something to respond to that. Okay, so like candidates had suggested, if you're concerned about that expense, you are always welcome to run for the board of Mid-State Electric, and maybe you can help make that change so it's not so expensive. All right. So far, we don't have any other questions today. And as some people have said, keeping meetings concise is a good thing. So we're going to do a wrap up now. And each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to state their name again, reiterate their mission as a board member, and then we're going to sign off for the night. So we'll start with, we're going to go back to the original order and start with Bill.
Oh, well, thank you. Based upon my experience here for the last several years, last 3 on the board and a few years before that with various committees, I think I'm well positioned to continue with some of the initiatives that we've been establishing over the last several years. I've been very proud to have been a participant in some of those accomplishments, but I want to be clear, I'm not taking credit for everything. Going forward, I'd be very interested in seeing through several of those initiatives that I think we could bring to fruition, especially around strategic planning for 2030.
Okay.
And I also want to extend appreciation to Sunriver U for providing this forum.
Thank you very much, Bill. Scott, would you like to have parting words?
I would just I'm kind of going to repeat what Bill said, I said in a sense, but I very much enjoyed working on the board. I've been enjoying being part of the planning of many of these committees and task force, as well as being on the board and working through that. And on the statement of volunteers, I highly encourage anyone to do the same. Everyone is welcome, and we're very happy to get input from everybody in the community. And I'm happy to hear it. And I would like to continue what I've been doing and continue the improvements we're trying to make to the community.
Thank you very much, Scott. Clark Peterson?
First of all, I'd like to say it's been an honor to serve on the board these past years. I've learned a tremendous amount about Sunriver. And I guess that's one of the strengths in returning members back to the board is the knowledge we've gathered in the last years is astounding on all the complications of problems that we face, and continue to look at solutions and ways to address it. I'd appreciate your support, and I hope you feel I'm open to hearing from you and representing your interests, concerns.
Thank you, Clark. And Bob?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. This has been a great session, and it was fun and interesting listening to everybody. I was asked to run for the board by some other board members who thought that my background and experience would be helpful. My background, again, is I have run large businesses, small businesses, 28 years in the Navy, have a lot of leadership experience. I was given missions and tasks for 20 of those 28 years. And there were no excuses. We always got the job done. And I learned in my government service, my political life, that public service is a great service. And that's what we're all doing here as a volunteer board member in one of the most gorgeous communities in the Northwest. And coming here since 1995 and bringing my children here when they were born, and now my grandchildren, I would love to see Sunriver continue to be what it's been for myself and my family and my friends. And it will take a lot of work. We have a lot of outside threats, and we talked about some of them today. And so it'll take a lot of good people, smart people working together to get through these difficult issues. I think my background and experience all the way from Oregon State, go Beavers, there goes the duck boat, to Georgetown and being a lawyer. Being a lawyer teaches you a lot. It teaches you a thinking process, to be methodical. My Navy taught me how to lead and get things done. My business taught me how to efficiently get things done. And that's what I've done. I look forward to having fun on the board. I look forward to getting things done. I look forward to shorter meetings. And it was great to meet all of you. And so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. All right. So I'd like to remind all of our viewers today that this was a recorded session. It will be available on YouTube through Sunriver U and Candidates Forum. Please feel free to share this with your neighbors and other owner friends in Sunriver. The more informed we are as voters, the better it is. So thank you all of you for being here today. And we wish you a beautiful day in Sunriver.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gwen, for all your hard work and organization.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gwen.
Take
You're
care,
welcome.
everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.